What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the show. I am really excited to introduce my next guest to you. He's a fellow Louisiana boy like myself, and he's an education entrepreneur, popular keynote speaker, teacher, and business coach. Plus, he does real estate consulting and leadership training, and he calls himself a businessman with a teacher's heart because everything he touches begins and ends with the goal of helping you achieve what you want. As the CEO of Donaldson Educational Services and the founder and CEO of Donaldson Training Solutions and an active real estate broker, his daily mission is to make your life and career better. So please welcome to the show, Chris Donaldson.
Hey, Corey, I appreciate that. It sounds like something that we may have typed up, but no, I really appreciate what you're doing, and hello to your audience there. It's absolutely true. I mean, I'm a guy that was just teaching classes that turned it into a business that then realized the extreme value that what we're doing, and the first step in so many people's entrepreneurial journey starts with us. So the mission is pure and it's a lot of fun. When everything is singing and dancing for us, Corey, it's like the perfect circle, really. Not the band, but the actual production engine, which means our products give people jobs, which then creates value to the marketplace, which then allows us to hire and create more jobs, and then it just keeps going around. So it's really easy for me to get out of bed every day and rock and roll on that mission.
I love that, man. I love that. Yeah, and I totally agree. It all starts with the educational piece, and then it just fuels from there. And really, that's why we're here today, is to hopefully, create that education which inspires that next generation of entrepreneurs. I mean, you've obviously got a lot of experience in the business world and as an entrepreneur, so I definitely want to dive into that. But, I was doing a little research on you before we jumped on the interview here, and I wanted to mention something because I really love this principle, and you actually made a video about it, which is the Parkinson's law. And I was wondering if you could kind of elaborate on that a little bit for us, because I think it's something that a lot of people listening may not even be aware of, but it's definitely affecting them.
Sure. So Parkinson's law, man, that's one of the many things that we talk about around here. And gosh, we're at the point where I've put so much stuff out there, which we'll get to, that I really appreciate you noticing and finding that. I mean, I think time and the management of time has been something people ask me about all the time. And when you're talking about the principle, it's really like as a manager. So if you're an entrepreneur and you're starting a business on your own, you're now your own manager. You're accountable to yourself. Well, one of the things that's really easy to do is that we can make any task that we want take as long as the time that's allotted for us will allow. So as an example, if your boss comes in and says, hey, I need you to make this marketing piece tomorrow, it's magic. You will have it done by tomorrow. If he said, have it to me by Friday, you would take until Friday. What if he said, have it to me in an hour? I bet you could do it in an hour, because what you find is, where that comes from with us is a lot of people will procrastinate and then take the same amount of time to accomplish anything right when the deadline looms. Why is it that everybody turns things in right at the deadline? In my real estate world, contracts always right at the deadline. That deadline could have been any time because it still takes that same amount of time. So squeezing those time frames, not giving ourselves too much time, being appropriate with what you can accomplish in a day, in an hour, in 30 minutes, man, it's really big. Because I think this old principle of 9-to-5 jobs, and this thing takes this long to do, well, why don't we challenge that? Because sometimes we're just creating time. I mean, in the corporate world, man, meetings to set up meetings, like things like that, like give me a break.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, man. And I love that. I love the idea of the Parkinson's law, because it really is like, it's arbitrary when you think about it. Like a deadline, like you say, a project can fill anything. And even if it's just like an email, I have to write an email. Well, if I give myself till the end of the day to write this email, sure enough, it's not getting out until I'm about to walk out the door, Mm-hmm. I've been not a culprit, but I've been a victim, I guess, of the Parkinson's law, a number of times where I almost have to sort of fake myself out and like shorten that deadline just to get something done. As we're talking right now, I mean, I'm actually working on the launch of this podcast. Now, this podcast episode is going to go out, well beyond the launch date. But right now, I'm literally launching this podcast, and I mean, I set myself a date, And it's insane how much work has grown, that I need to do by the time this date comes around. So I think it's funny, and it's really, again, I think a lot of the people listening may not even be aware that this is a thing. So I wanted to bring that up because, awareness is key. Once you know something, then you know how to manage it, right? If you don't know something, then you have no idea what you're missing out on.
Oh, for sure. Look, there's a lot of people out there, and I know your audience is very digital aware, right? Digitally aware. And so one of the things I want to point out is anything that you'll find of mine, like that video, it's generally, I'm putting information out there to try to save you the trouble of figuring it out, because I had to struggle and figure that out myself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was horrendous at managing time at one point in my career. So I'm putting things out there to try to help people understand, look, this is something that I've learned. If you feel the same way that I do, this is kind of how you can get over it. You're coming from a world-class procrastinator and crammer. I mean, we took an entire college course, and I would learn it the night before the final exam, right? So now that was entirely too stressful, entirely, but it was possible. Right? Like, why could you take an entire college semester course and have these things called intercession where you do them in just 2 weeks? So like this idea of how long it takes to do things, where do people get this from? Who decided that? Right. Challenge those assumptions, man, and squeeze your time frames and get things done. Like a podcast is a great example, Corey. Since nobody's making you do it, nobody is going to force you to publish this thing. You can push that deadline back forever, and it will be no more the wiser of the rest of the world because, hey, you were going to launch this thing. So a second piece of that, I don't know if it was in that video, is I would tell everybody that you're launching a podcast. Now you're on notice.
Right.
So now the rest of the world's like, where's the podcast? Corey, I thought you said you were launching a podcast. What's going on with the podcast? So telling everybody your intention sometimes will force you to get that thing done.
Yeah, for sure. That's actually a great point, that whole accountability piece. And that really is a big reason why I feel like, I'm under the gun, because, you're right. I am my own manager in this role and my own boss. And really, I mean, nobody hurts but me if it doesn't go out. But, a week ago, or actually it was 2 weeks ago, I put out messages on social and on all my platforms and told everybody, get ready. I'm launching a podcast on August 15th. And so, if I let them down, I mean, whatever, I let them down, but I don't want to do that. And that accountability is really big piece of getting that thing done. So for sure, I think it's super important. But, I want to go ahead and jump into.
Stop you right there.
Okay, yeah.
There's one thing that you said that I don't agree with. You said, if I don't launch it, something to the effect of, well, nobody's harmed but me. I'm going to strongly disagree with you there, because if your podcast is really presenting value and you're really putting good stuff out to the world, you are harming your audience by not publishing it. I completely disagree. Is this podcast about you or is it about them? And if it's about them, then 100% you owe it to them. It's your obligation to launch this thing. So I disagree, man. I think that you owe it to your audience and to the world, and the good people that are going to get something out of this, from small little Plaquemine out to the rest of the world. I think that it's super important. So,
you know what? Yeah, you're right, man. Yeah, you're definitely right about that. And that's true. I mean, and honestly, so I'll retract that statement,
Can't help it, man. I'm sorry. See, I'm teaching all the time.
Yeah, it's a good deal. It's a good deal, man. And it's 100% true, because actually this falls in line with kind of anybody out there that's interested in starting a business. A lot of times, a lot of the businesses that we start come from passions that we have, right? Or experiences that we've been through, problems that we faced, and we found a solution for it. So we want to share that with other people. So you're absolutely right. I mean, I'm not the only one that had a problem, getting the inspiration to get out of my 9 to 5. I listen to podcasts. That's what gave it to me. That's why I created this thing. And I need to get it out there to help everyone else that happens to run across it. So you're 100% correct, man. I definitely love that. So, but let's go ahead and jump into your story, brother. I want to hear about how you got started in business and became an entrepreneur. And, is this something that you've always wanted to do, or was it, kind of happen along the way? Like, let's talk about that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, on my podcast, as we started it, the first few episodes were sort of diving a little bit, starting this crazy education business, because I realized that I'd kind of hidden, I guess, the world from some of that, only because, like you're thinking, or that a lot of us think, well, maybe it doesn't matter to them, or they don't want to hear about me, or this and that and the other. What we've discovered is it's just the opposite. So long story short, it's a family business story. So anybody out there that ever is in a family business, is trying to transform a family business, maybe you're taking an old way of doing things and you're trying to make it new age. You're like, Dad, you don't understand. We need to have Facebook ads. And you're sitting there trying to get me to put stuff in the paper. Like, it's a classic family business story. And so my grandfather started what was originally a real estate school. My father ran it for a long time. And really, the shortest version of the story I can come up with is that it was a Katrina story, which means I was graduating college. And when Katrina hit, the family, everybody, the business, it all dispersed. Nobody could be contacted. My dad was off the grid, all these various things. And as a kid that was literally graduating college, that was not going to go into family business, there was like this calling. And I can't explain it, but if I didn't go pick up the pieces and help get this thing rolling, if I didn't go figure out how to answer the phones, like there were customers in North Louisiana, a thing to them. And they were calling our office every day and wondering why we weren't open because they needed help. So through the process of doing that, fighting those battles, figuring out how to just get back in to Jefferson and Orleans Parish after the storm, I wasn't getting a paycheck. Nobody asked me to do it. It was just something had to be done. I figured out who I was, right? Just by accident. Like, oh, wait a minute. I'm a problem solver. I like this. I like the challenge. I can do this. And so it only took but a year later. This is in the early to mid 2000s where mortgage money was still readily available. And this nice commercial lender took a chance on me, lent me enough money, even with a co-signer, to be able to buy out the family business and buy out all of the stakeholders, all of the equity from all the other family members. And at 23 years old, here I was standing on top of this company. And now all these things that I said I was going to do, all these modernization things I said I was going to do, well, now my future depended on it. So I took a big bet on myself. And fortunately, 13 years later, we're still here. So things are doing well, but I would say to a lot of those folks out there, you can be an entrepreneur within a family business. You don't have to be crazy and go buy out all the family members like I did, but you can certainly stake your claim. You can try ideas that maybe you wouldn't have the freedom to do on your own. But within the constraints of it, one business has left to another, has led to another. And so, we're just trying to set up pillars that complement each other. So as an example, as real estate agents, man, we became the best resource to pass that exam, which is the first hurdle to become a real estate agent. Shout out to any agents out there, the drill. But then what would happen after that? Well, where do I get listings from? Where do I get business from? How do I generate leads? So we just wanted to create a new academy. That's the Donaldson training system side. It's what we call the non-compliant stuff, the stuff they don't make you take, like continuing ed and all that, to help them build their business. And so for me, in order to do that, I had to do it myself first. Wow. So that's where YouTube Live came in. That's where all of our content engine came in. That's where putting all the stuff out there, because I did not, well, first of all, it helped grow our business. But secondly, I did not want to share, teach, train anybody how to do something I hadn't done myself first.
Right. That's amazing, man. And I love that story, how you almost came in as like the hero, the reluctant hero.
Yeah, I don't want to be, look, anybody in my shoes would have done the same thing.
Right. I can appreciate that, but there's still, there was a big hurdle and a big risk, like you said, for you to step in and really try to take over everything and manage it like that. I mean, as a young kid, like that had to be intimidating to some degree. And I can only imagine, I have no experience like that, but I can only imagine what that must have been like. But, here you are, like you say, 13 years later, and you guys are killing it, which is awesome. And as you said, every solution, right, that people get on just brings them sort of to the next problem. And the fact that you guys are able to, really sort of hold people's hands like through the entire process, I mean, it's, that's really, really valuable and definitely, helps people move forward. And like you say, you're always, trying to help people move forward in their careers and in their lives. And it's evident in the business you guys are running. I'm interested though, is, how like transitioning into the whole digital landscape, how has, the training piece sort of changed from the past to what it is today, where
Oh, man.
a lot of your stuff is online. And I mean, let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. We like so many businesses, but we are such a pure example of how the landscape has created so much opportunity as long as you didn't hide from it. I
Mm.
mean, when I first started working here, just to pay bills in college, if you will, the end of the year was always really busy. So I'd be home from college, it'd be the holidays. I would help because deadlines, we just talked about it. Real estate agents have all year to renew their license and do their continuing ed, but the deadline's December 31st. Between Christmas and New Year's, all hell breaks loose over here, man. There's something about that Parkinson's law, man. It's an amazing deal. But when I first started working here, you could only take classes in the classroom legally. Like one of the reasons Dad kind of dragged me in was because online courses were becoming a thing. This is 2002.
Hmm.
And the technology, the regulatory structure, everything about it was so new that my dad was the classic baby boomer dad. I don't know, my son's got the internet. He could probably help us figure this out, right? Brings me in. I don't know anything. So from there to now, it's pretty amazing because you can stream live courses from anywhere, just like this in HD. I mean, people are watching me give them a lecture on their phone in real time, raising their hand, asking questions. They can be anywhere. I mean, there's even internet on Mars, so they could be on Mars with the Tesla, right? But the streaming capabilities, the interactivity. I mean, as technology has caught up, it's allowed us as a school to do the things that I've always wanted to be able to do. But to take you all the way back, my favorite story that you could probably identify with in advertising is when I fired the Yellow Pages.
Mm.
And the long and short of it was I was kind of inexperienced, right? It's a family business. I'd been handed down. Well, we've been spending thousands a month in the Yellow Pages every month forever, so we got to keep doing this. And I didn't necessarily have a problem with that. But I remember the year, this was 2011-ish, 2010 or 11. So it wasn't super early, right out of the recession, right? And all I was asking the rep, so nothing wrong with the Yellow Pages, everybody that's worked there, but you can identify what I went through. All I kept asking the rep was, what are the numbers? How many people called us? How many people are responding to these ads? And I would tell them this, and I will tell you this, and I will tell everybody this, because if it's working, I will spend more. I will triple down. I will quadruple down. Like if I spend $1, it makes us $2, I'll spend way more money. And they just were cagey.
Right.
You could just tell. They wouldn't give me the numbers. They wouldn't tell me the phone calls. So by them not giving me the information, I already kind of knew the answer. I had set them up a year before. All of our ads had tracking numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So we were tracking it. I just wanted to see if our advertising partner would tell us the truth. And sure enough, they would never give us the answers. I knew the answer. It was 2, by the way. 2 phone calls. No, I lie. 3 phone calls because one was the same little old lady twice. But what my point was, we were spending all this money. And so I've had to navigate, like so many, this transition to the online world. And what was once this traditional bricks and mortar classroom teaching, Yellow Pages and newspaper business, now we are 90% Facebook ads, funnels, digital media, e-commerce. I mean, we're an e-commerce juggernaut compared to a lot of businesses that are fighting that. I mean, we do the majority through that. I mean, look, there's so many different angles that we could go in on that. But I will tell you, I screwed a lot of things up too.
Well, I mean, you got to learn by doing, right?
100%. And so we were talking about before, I think we started, that perfection's the enemy of progress. One thing that I will always stress is that moving forward is better than not moving at all. Mm-hmm. And if your plan is not perfect, it's better than making a perfect plan that's 3 steps behind, because I'm always going to be ahead of our competition. So they're not going to do something before I do it. Now, it's easy for them to go follow me, which a lot of times they do, but what they don't realize is they're still way back in the rearview mirror because we're already working on the next thing while they're trying to copy the last thing. And so what's really important, a couple of lessons that I'll share is, one is we always try to be where our audience is.
Yes.
Always. So I'm running a school. My clients, it's a lot of B2B and B2C. So my clients are the real estate brokerages, the insurance companies, as much as they are the individual out there in space. So our LinkedIn game has to get better. We are on YouTube because it's the #2 search engine in the world. We started a podcast because we know it's a huge medium. But in 2011, we dumped a bunch of money onto Facebook before anybody was doing that, before it was popular. So we kind of took a big chunk out of that audience that was available for businesses like ours because we just were doing it. And so, look, you talked about how we got to know each other and where we found each other. I'm always reading. I'm always looking. I'm always learning. I'm sure that I've learned something from you already and that I will as we go forward, because I'm also humble enough to know that I've got an idea and I know what we want to do. But if I'm the expert funnel builder and I'm the expert e-commerce guy and I'm the expert web coder and I'm the expert, I'm lying.
Right.
Because I can't be the expert in all those things. So I need those people either advising our business, working for our business, consulting our business. And so I'm not afraid to do that. I'm not too proud. Like even using the word hero, you saw me kind of cringe. I'm like, it's not about me. And that's one other thing I'll share. It's long-winded. I so much didn't want our family business to be about me because my last name's on the door, that until 2015, late 14, early 15, if you look online, I'm invisible. And it was a huge mistake.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll say that again. It was a huge mistake because people wanted to be able to identify with Donaldson, the company, and, my voice is on the products. I mean, the courses, I'm teaching the courses, but I just didn't want to put info out there. Something like you said earlier, right? I didn't want people to think it was all about me. I didn't want people to think I was this ego freak or whatever. These were all excuses and complaints that I had made up in my own head. And I wonder how much further ahead our business would have been and would be now if those 4 years prior, so like 2010-ish, if I'd have gone full bore on YouTube, full bore with podcasts, how much different the landscape would look. However, it hasn't stopped me from going.
Right. I love that, man. And honestly, like just listening to you talk, I can hear your passion and I can hear like the fact that, like you say, it's not about you, that. I mean, it's about the business and the solution that it provides and how you can help everyone out there that has these problems, real estate agents or, companies or, people that need to sell their houses, like whatever it is, wherever they're at in the process, there are educational pieces that you can put out there to help them move forward. And what I love too, that you said is, anybody can copy what you're doing, right? Because you're out there, you're public, you've got everything going on. And obviously what you guys are doing works, but they can only copy so fast. You're going to continue moving forward and they're still in the back, in the background. So I love that you're a pioneer and, you took the company, and while most of the people in this industry are maintaining this right movement, you guys decided to go left. And that's where a lot of your growth, comes from, right? I mean, I've noticed most of in my experience, any growth that I've seen is when I kind of go against the grain and try something new. But a lot of times, sometimes things don't work, but that's the only way that you can find out what works and what doesn't work.
No doubt.
So I love that, man. And I love the goal that you guys have to just, to really be like the big player in the space and create all of that educational, information for everybody. So,
well, here's why. It's a real. Let's take a step back and make sure that everybody understands. Like in my business, what we do is something that's not all too sexy from a standpoint of you get hours to be able to apply to a state regulatory board to be able to get a real estate license or an insurance license or a mortgage. And we take that not sexy stuff and make it sexy and matter to people. And the real reason behind that is because I was, managing our business through the recession and all these things. One thing I can tell you is we owe it to our audience because we are ethical. We are the best. We treat our customers the way they want to be treated. We call them student customers because we are a school. And, there are people since I've gone on YouTube just in 2014 that literally email me all the time because I'm extremely public, almost to a fault. And all the time, they spent X amount of dollars at this school and learned nothing. They spent X amount of dollars at this place and they couldn't pass the exam. And they couldn't do this and they couldn't do that. And to me, I felt like we owed it to the student customers out there, to the future real estate millionaires out there, the insurance millionaires, the mortgage millionaires. Like, we owe it to them to expand because we are doing things better in an old, boring, tired business with a bunch of white hair guys sitting around telling everybody they're awesome and they know everything because they said so. I just wanted to turn all that upside down and see if we could do things a little bit differently. Now, that's, in 2019, that's not that crazy of a concept. But in 2011, 10, 9, 8, going backwards, we look, there are rules in the regulatory structure now where the types of courses that we invented that they used to sue us and tell us were not legal are now written into the laws as one of the delivery options. I mean, we literally are inventing the way to do stuff because I'm not worried about the way it always was done. I'm worried about the way that's best for the customer and consumer now. And I just wish more people would look at things that way.
Yeah, I love that, man. And that's such a great outlook. And, it actually draws a parallel as you were talking about sort of the unsexiness of like all the regulations and like the fact that, they have to renew these licenses, they have to take classes. It's actually very similar to my old industry as an electrician. I mean, we have a license, and every 3 years you have to renew that license. There's certain classes you have to go through to maintain, certain roles within the company. And none of that was sexy. And if anything, that was actually one of my very first business ideas, was to create a course on how to pass the electrical exam, because I passed it the very first time I took it. And for me, it was actually quite easy. I don't know why, but it just came to me easily, because all it really is in that particular industry, it's understanding how to look up information. It's not that you have to learn all of this information and remember it, because you actually could take the code book with you to the course and take, you just had to know how to look it up. So I was like, I'm working with all these people that just have failed the test 4 or 5, 6 times, and they're like struggling to just pass it. Like, man, I could create a course on, just showing people how to pass this test, how to look up information, how to look at the National Electric Code and not get, confused while they're looking at it.
How come we never did that? What happened?
I wasn't confident in myself at the time, but, something maybe I could go back and visit for sure.
Well, look, it's what you notice how my eyes light up, because that's exactly what I'm talking about, is that it's so easy for people outside the business, or even you that passed it the first time. Congrats, by the way. Real estate's an easy target because people like to talk about real estate agents, but electricians or contractors or insurance agents or whatever, look, it's not super easy for everybody to pass these exams. Mm-hmm. And furthermore, the one thing that we've discovered is people are going to spend their money on solutions. So it ought to be you, because they're going to spend it anyway.
Right.
So for me, I'm never going to go learn how to be an electrician, but I would bring on Corey and I would let you write that course. Let's put it under our umbrella and let's help even more people. So if you want to still do that, we should talk, because I would 100% do that with you, because we've got all the stuff together. And look what my eyes are really about. Whatever money, we'll figure that out later. Is there people out there that need to be served? Right. You've got an expertise that I don't. Let's go serve them. It's right in line with everything else that we already do. And so if your audience is entrepreneurs, especially new ones, the biggest thing is, if you're focused on the end user, the consumer, you are really focused on them, not just saying you're focused on them, and you're trying to solve their principal problem and doing it better with empathy, with care than your competitors, you will win. If it's secretly about you, you will lose. And so for me, when you're thinking about the electrician exam, I get fired up. I'm like, okay, how many people can we prevent from having to spend that fee to go take that test again? Right. What does that cost? Well, they could be giving us that money.
Right.
And saving themselves the headache. Everybody wins in that equation.
Right. Absolutely. And, I totally agree, man. That's actually something I talk about a lot on this podcast is, when you think about business and when you think about entrepreneurship, it really has to be customer centric. It has to be about, your customer, your client, and solving a problem that they have. Right. And everything we discuss here is all about providing value, because at the end of the day, as long as you take care of your customer, like you say, the money will come. The bank accounts will get taken care of. That's not a problem, And I've always been a believer that I don't know why, maybe I'm delusional, but I just know that I'll be taken care of financially. I just know that. So I'm not really worried about it as long as I continue to make content and try to provide value to people that are really in my shoes yesterday. That's kind of the way I think about it, because every problem we come across, we try to create a solution. And when we find one that works, we want to share it. I mean, that's human nature,
Sure.
So yeah, I love that, man. We should definitely talk about the whole electrical thing, because I know that there are people out there that are suffering. That, man, I've got friends that still, that I'm connected with that are still in the industry, and they struggle, man. They struggle, and the new entrepreneur or the new apprentices that are coming in, they're also struggling, trying to figure out how to become journeymans. How to, a lot of them have young families they're trying to support, and this is a real problem, but it's not sexy, so nobody's talking about it. So
Exactly. There's that piece, and then there's the other piece, which is how important is that trade going forward?
right,
So, I mean, there are so many things that you can do that are going to be so valuable. And there's this, like, I don't make the rules. Like, we joke about Donaldson rules or laws that end up in the regulatory structure. It's, some of it we're proud of because we've moved things even by accident. But in reality, we don't make the rules, right? Like, the government is going to make rules. They're going to make structures. I mean, look, they're dragging Google and Facebook in front of Congress. Like, who knows if there's not going to be a license to create a funnel one day on a digital media? We don't know. So my point is let them do what they're going to do, and then figure out where the opportunities are within the structure that's created.
absolutely.
So, all day long, I'm looking at those things because they're going to do them anyway. So, yeah, it's not sexy to think about what a contractor has to do to pass their test, or an electrician. But what I know is at 2 a.m, your wannabe colleagues are Googling how to pass that test, and they are giving away money to who knows, some guy that has SEO optimized, but no content worth anything worth a darn. And those people paying me because those are not legitimate businesses.
Yeah.
Like, I can do that trick too. Anybody listening, hopefully by the time you release this, it's still true, but go Google how to do real estate math. I've tried this all over the world. I pop up first and I pop up second. And they're free videos, and there's nothing selling you anything.
Love it.
By the way, if anybody's struggling with any math, go watch those videos, because guess what? I was not great at math. I hacked how to do business algebra, and I show it to you in 5 minutes. And so I just want everybody to see again and again. Like, I've had people go, how are you not capturing all those leads from the video and selling them stuff and all this? I'm like, man, you just don't get it.
Right. You just don't understand.
Now, you're not thinking 5 years from now, I'm going to be here. What are you going to be doing?
Right. It's all about that goodwill, man. And that's what you're doing, is you're building up goodwill out there in the world. And the thing is, a lot of people, they need, like, what's the average, 7 times to interact with you before they're actually ready to buy from you,
At least
but
7 to 15 times.
A lot of these people that are out there, like you say, these SEO experts, not to say all SEO experts are shysters, but the ones that are out there simply to get the first click so that they can monetize it, like, they're not going to last forever, right? Because they're a one-trick pony, and they're going to go on to the next gimmick and the next gimmick and the next gimmick. And unfortunately, all the people left in the wake behind are the ones that are suffering. So for everyone listening, I really love this conversation, man, because your mindset, your demeanor, the way of being, this is what it takes to be successful as an entrepreneur and as a business person. I hope you guys are getting this, because it really is not about you. It frustrates the crap out of me when we're in these Facebook groups and I constantly see people like posting, hey, I only have $100 to invest in a business. What should I do so I can, make a bunch of money like overnight? And it's just, it's like, you'll never succeed with that mindset. You will never get anywhere. You're going to always be struggling. So I really hope that's not, my listeners. I don't think that's the kind of people we're attracting here. So I love the conversation, man.
No, I appreciate that, Corey. I really do. And look, authenticity is a big thing with me. And so the biggest compliment that I can ever receive, which fortunately it seems to happen a lot, is that I'm the same person if you sit down with me in person, as the dude on YouTube, as the guy in the podcast. And I tell everybody, it's because when you are who you are 100% of the time, there's nothing I have to hide from. There's nothing I have to worry about. I'm just being myself. And that is the best brand that's possible for Chris Donaldson.
Love
That's the best brand is who I actually am, which will evolve over time. Hopefully you will see me improve as a person and grow as a leader over time. And part of the fun of this digital revolution is I'm taking people with me. We'll be able to go back and look at the podcast when we expanded for the first time, when we did these various things and the struggles I was going through then. But, you know, to that guy that with the $100, that's a real thing that people really do need money. They really do need to pay bills. And they really do have expenses, you know. And so I think about that a lot. I really do.
They really should go get a job. Like if you're that you're that bad.
Most of the time, this is what I'll tell you. Before I got into the family business at all, okay, I was driving forklifts at a paper document destruction company. I was waiting tables at a crappy Mexican restaurant somewhere in a town near you where they brought coupons to the restaurant. That's how well I was getting tipped. I mean, for real. You know, I was willing to do whatever it took so that I could not have to borrow money to go through school. I don't know why that seems so important to me. It's probably because I knew I was irresponsible and wouldn't be able to pay it back. But I have extreme empathy for all those that have student loans, right? Their job is not returning what they were promised in college. So whether it's $100, $1,000, $10,000, my first suggestion is, and people say this all the time, but I'm going to be dead serious, invest it in yourself, which means improve you and the money will come. It's 1,000%, 100%. All of those phrases you hear, oh, it's a sure bet. Well, I am a sure bet. So I proved it by putting my ink on the line. And by the way, I paid all that off by the time I was 30 because that was a goal, because I didn't want to owe anybody anything. If the world ended, at least I would not owe anybody anything. But here's what I'm getting at. As my personal investment in myself, as that budget continued to increase, so did my top line of my businesses. And so every year I've tried to level up. And every year that I level up, so does our revenue. Those are not like discombobulated dots that don't go together. There's a direct connection. And I don't have a book to sell you. I don't have this personal development course. I am telling you to invest it in yourself, and you will figure out how to make $100 1,000 times.
Yeah.
So, for instance, when when social media marketing really got big, like after Facebook turned off the organic reach, and you basically had to pay to play, like in 2014 or 15. Look, we were one of those audiences. Like, man, we had done a great job, we thought, and now we've got to pay. I immediately went to 3 conferences that were the highest recommended, where I could go learn what the heck was going on so I could bring it back and deliver it to my business. That is my job as the CEO. That is my obligation as the owner of these companies, right? So what I wouldn't try to do is to turn around for the quick buck unless it was like the most desperate situation. But if you really are in that situation, there's a million jobs right now that you can go open Craigslist, you can go open Indeed, you can go open wherever. Most of those people are too proud to do the jobs that are available because they want to procrastinate. Here's what I'm long form getting to, Corey. I know sometimes I get a little verbal. This is years of teaching these CE classes, man. I can make anything last too long. Is that don't be too proud to do what you need to in the short term to take care of everything in the long term. I mean, don't be too proud. If you got to take that second job, if you got to go work as a cashier, if you got to go sweep floors, if you got do what you have to do to keep your long-term goal on track. And if you got a family, take care of your family. You're going to take longer trying to flip that $100 into some easy money than you would investing it in a skill that you'll be able to repeat the benefits over time. We get that in real estate a lot. Everybody's like, well, I want to generate more leads. I go, okay, well, how much are you spending now? 0. Okay, well, let's start at $1. Right? Yeah. But the real problem isn't even the leads, man. It's like they come in and they want instant gratification. Well, if you talk to me for the first time as a real estate agent, you're not going to buy a house tomorrow. So what you need are the skills on how to follow up over time, how to keep me engaged, how to understand that you're playing the long game. So, those folks, and by the way, I have an SEO firm. It's important that we get our message in front of the right people, but our only business is not to trick people into buying some fake practice exam online that's not going to benefit them. So you were 1,000% right, but just so the audience understands that SEO, when you're really good at it, is a super important skill. And it's something that I outsource because it's really valuable for our business.
Well, I love what you said about how, like, you know, when everything changed in the online marketing space and all of a sudden organic reach just shrunk, right? And a lot of people just, their hair went on fire and they were freaking out because they had these huge businesses that were completely reliant on the traffic they were getting from organic search, you know, and then overnight Google, you know, the godfather in the sky, decided they wanted to change the rules. Well, instead of complaining about it and freaking out about it, you decided to, okay, what's the next step? Oh, paid advertising? Great. I'm going to learn how to do that. You know, and you go to the conferences, you get the skill set, and now look at you. You guys are, you know, running paid ads and getting that traffic back, right? So I love that story because you're 100% right. Like, if you have the money to invest in a business, but you don't know what to do, invest that money in yourself, right? And into developing a skill set that will help you create more money, that will help you generate. And honestly, I love sales as a skill set. And I always tell people, if you don't know what to do, learn how to sell. Because once you learn how to sell, then you can pretty much sell anything, right? And there's all kinds of companies out there that need more salespeople. You know, if you can sell something, you are valuable and you can generate income. You know, so it's that skill set, learning a skill set, investing in yourself, personal development, all of that. I'm 100% for that. And definitely, you know, think I preach it and I do it myself all the time. So,
man, we should start episode 2 right now and then pick up right from there on sales and customer service and how to deal with people and how you will be valuable for the end of time, because you're 1,000% right. I cannot emphasize what you said. Like, if I could star this on social media, what you just said, I would. That was such a great point. You know, because at the end of the day, electricians are a good example, right? I mean, if I go look up electricians, if I'm trying to find an electrician, I need one to install the ceiling fan. Let's use something really simple, and I'm not going to touch it. Well, what is the average consumer going to do?
right.
They're going to Google it. Maybe go to some aggregator site like Angie's List, who has just become another toll booth you got to get through. What they're really going to do is ask a friend. And the friend's going to tell them, hey, call Corey. Corey does awesome work. And then if they call you and they're skeptical, you have to be able to tell them about you, tell them about your business, and show them what you're going to do for them in like 30 seconds. And it should come off like just the easiest thing in the world, which circles all the way back to what I said. The greatest salespeople are authentic. And all of this other stuff, it just doesn't work long term. Because if you're the product, like Corey, if you're the electrician and you're the product, man, if you can't sell me on you, then what are we doing here?
Right.
Like, you are the product.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if there's one master electrician or a non-master, or I don't even know if that's a thing. See, I'm making stuff up because I don't know. But I know if I trust Corey in 30 seconds.
Right.
So
Exactly.
you can do that digitally, by the way, which is why video and audio are so powerful. They are gateways to the phone, to the in-person meetings, to the relationships that are going to lead to long-term value, at least in my opinion. Maybe it's because I'm kind of mashed between millennial and the new generation, somewhere in there, that, like, I used to have to call girls on the phone to ask them out. And now, you know, we have text messages and everything under the sun. So maybe it's because I was kind of smashed in that transitional generation, but the phone is still super powerful.
Absolutely.
And relationships are still super powerful. And I think people try to replace those digitally when they should be amplifying those digitally.
Right. Yeah. Well, the digital tools, the technology, well, it's all it really is a tool, but the fundamentals of, you know, relationships and communication and, you know, like you say, building trust, that doesn't change. It never has, and it never will. It's just the tool we use to do it and to communicate will change over time. Yeah. But you're absolutely right, man. I think we should get you back on, and we should do an episode 2, because there's clearly a lot more that we could go into about that. But what I want to do is go ahead and transition into the last topic, which is the work-life balance. And, you know, you're over here running a massive family business, something that's been around for years. I know there's got to be a million moving pieces going on for you, and you're trying to manage it all. But at the same time, I saw on your Instagram, you're an avid golfer and you got a lot of other things that you do. So how are you making it all work, man? How do you manage everything?
Well, first of all, I'm not like most people. There's a phrase that we use, and it's everything that I tell you is carved in water, which means I'm pliable all the time, day by day. But honestly and truly, first of all, I appreciate you doing your research and looking. I want people to see that it's possible to do a lot, and it's possible to accomplish a lot, and you don't need to hide from that because we are human. So for me, it's about knowing intentionally what I'm after overall, which then guides my short-term to-do lists, which then guides my day by day. And so for me, yeah, I'm running these businesses. And then also, like, I just got back. You see, always got the trusty golf hat on most of the time when it's in like podcast mode, right? But I just got back from playing the state mid-am, which is like the championship for people over 25, and I didn't fare well, mostly because I didn't have enough time to prepare. And one of the things that I have to give myself a break on is you can't be the greatest or the best everything. So you got to figure out what is your profession, then what is your heart, and then what is your hobby. And I think that's really, really important. So as an example, what is the order that these things go? And what am I willing to cut out so that the other one doesn't get harmed? So if family is your heart, which it should be, right? It's never going to get cut out. And if business is my profession, as the real estate school, if nothing else, I will know this stuff backwards and forwards and keep producing courses, books, content. Like, that's my expertise. And golf, if it's a hobby, I've got to carve it out in the schedule. So real quick, this is the way that I do it. So you've got the overall goals. I'll just tell you how I did it because I had to hack it for it to work for myself. Every day on a list based on what my goals are, there's a classic to-do list. And you just spur it out as it comes out, right? I try to do it at night before I go to bed and then revisit it first thing in the morning. But the key is to put 1s and 2s and 3s next to everything. For me, a 1 is most critical task must be done, cannot get to any of the 2s until the 1s are done. And then guess what? Cannot get to the 3s until the 2s are done. So on a daily basis, if I get to work on time, if I'm after it intentionally, if I'm keeping a closed schedule and doing everything the way that I need to do, well then if golf practice is a 3, then I need to go to war with the 1s and the 2s so that I can get to the 3. So, but people talk about work-life balance all the time too. I mean, the idea of working with a laptop and in the Caribbean and doing all these things, believe me, I thought about it because I was like, man, I can run this online school from anywhere. Wait a minute. What am I doing? I think it all goes back to what type of business you're in. So what's your vehicle? And then secondly, and this is just one man's opinion, but then secondly, what are your actual goals? Yeah. Because if you're telling people on Instagram you're going to be this multi-zillionaire, but yet you want to find out how to do that in a 4-hour work week, which is only a 4-hour work week, which you didn't even read the book because the first thing you would tell you in the book is this isn't about a 4-hour work week, right? It was just a title to sell books. But if you're looking for that, well, they're not aligned, so you're never going to get there. But somebody like me that wants to be well-rounded, wants to do a lot of things, probably overachiever classically, wants to accomplish all these different things, then I've got to be really disciplined on what goes in my schedule, sticking to it, and not allowing other things to get in it that weren't planned. So a great example for me is students and people, maybe it's salesmen, it could be anybody that will just show up at our office and demand to speak to me right now. There's about a 0% chance of that happening, no matter who you are. It's not because I'm important. It's not because I'm Mr. Whatever. It's because I'm in the middle on my schedule of recording a podcast with Corey, and it's rude to Corey, and it is unfair to me for you to be able to stop the music because you want to ask me about one question on some exam you took in one of our courses.
Right.
The more appropriate thing is, well, let's make an appointment, and we know Chris will give you all the time that you need. So, but that's something I had to learn because I was always really reactive. I wanted to be the customer service king, right? I didn't want anybody to ever feel like I wasn't there to help them. But I realized on a daily basis, saying yes to other people, saying no to me. And the more I did that, the more miserable I was and the more unproductive I was. So every day, get the ones done. And then really for me, the rest of the day is like gravy. The real question is, what are the ones?
I love it. I love it, man. So goals and priorities, and obviously discipline to stick to that schedule. That's really key. And I always talk about goals, and I love what you said about having, your big goal. Like, what is your big goal, right? And then that should help sort of organize, like, what are some of the like weekly goals that we need to do every week to maintain. And then that tells me, okay, what do I need to do on a daily basis? But the biggest thing that I think that you mentioned, which hopefully will help everybody listening, is the discipline aspect, right? Mm-hmm. And understanding that, you have to be able to say no to things, even though it may seem like we just talked about saying yes to things, but you also have to be able to say no to things, right? And knowing where to draw the line is super critical. So I love that, man. I love that answer. And Chris, this has really been a blast, man. I hate to have to get off of here, but I do have one more question for you that I want to ask you. And that is, what is a piece of advice that you would give yourself maybe 5 or 10 years ago?
5 or 10 years ago. I'd go 10 years ago because we'd be like in the throes of the recession. Honestly, what I would tell myself is stay humble and keep growing. That's what I would honestly tell myself. Stay humble and keep growing. Because if you've got the humility to understand you're just one cog in this big machine and that you don't know everything, what it really does is relieve a lot of pressure. You don't have to know everything. You're not supposed to be an expert at everything. Like at my company, I always use this example. We have real estate programs. We have insurance programs. We have mortgage programs, home inspection, notary, contractor. I'd be lying to you if I wanted to sit here and tell you I was an expert on the details of every one of those pillars. That's not possible. It makes no sense. I can't be an expert home inspector and an expert real estate broker. Oh, and I also do mortgage originations, and I'm literally the expert on all of them. Give myself a break. Make sure that I'm humble enough to know what I know and what I don't know, and keep growing. When I stopped worrying about courses that I got hours for and started worrying about courses that improved me as a person, everything got better every day. And so I would go back and tell myself that, because then I wouldn't maybe have procrastinated on spending the money or the time on myself that I could have a lot earlier.
I love it, man. I love that. That's great advice. And for everyone listening, please take that to heart, because it really is a relief when you let yourself go of that responsibility of having to be the expert in everything, right?
Yeah.
You pick something and you really dive deep into it, you will be the expert. And you're going to feel great doing it, because now you don't have to worry about all that other crap. So that's a great piece of advice, man. I really appreciate that. And Chris, again, this has been a blast. I've really enjoyed talking with you. I think we should do an episode 2 if you're down for that. That would be a lot of fun.
We'll start with sales and we'll go from there.
Right on. Well, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you online and what you got going on in your world?
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that. I mean, listen, number one, I want to thank everybody for listening. If you made it to this part, I know Corey's doing a great job here. He's clearly got intention to help you guys. So hopefully you got value out of it, because one of the hardest things to do in the world is produce something that you guys don't have to pay for. So if you download this free and you got value out of it, make sure you let Corey know. As for me, I'm anywhere that you're comfortable, you can find me. Instagram, The Chris Donaldson, Facebook, The Chris Donaldson, or the hub for everything that I'm doing, which is like just the world, according to Chris, is at christalks.com. If you want to visit the actual business and the different programs that we offer and the actual the company itself, that's donaldsoneducation.com. But come on over to christalks.com. There's over 100 free hours of live video content about building your business, dealing with people, understanding websites, just on and on and on. So come take advantage of it. Literally the entire project, everything about it is centered around you. So come say hi on social media, whatever your favorite channel is. You'll find me there, because I'm a crazy person. I'm everywhere. And I'd love to say hello.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate that. You guys definitely go check Chris out if you need any help. And all those real estate agents that are out there listening right now, make sure you check out Donaldson companies and what they got going on, all the training that they're offering. Chris, this really has been a blast, man. And, thank you for your honesty and your transparency today and the stories that you shared. I think a lot of people got a lot of value today. I know I did for sure. So I appreciate you, man. And we'll catch you on the next one.
Absolutely. You got it. Thanks for having me, man.